President, man, we can't handle all that same stuff. We couldn't deal with that Monica Lewinsky. Black people, we can't be under the eye of being a president. We don't have nobody all in our business like that. We couldn't have been the president with that Monica Lewinsky nonsense going on. Black president don't do all that getting fronted on. You just jump up and yell our business all out. We don't play like that. Black president been at a press conference when, doing this thing, reporter would have jumped up. Tell us about Monica Lewinsky. What? Hold on, dog. Nigga, what you gonna ask me in front of my wife and everything, nigga? Nigga, hold my jacket, dog. That's when everybody started leaving. The president fight too much. He always fighting. That's why I don't go nowhere where he...
Anti-Afro, Svengalis. I just had to play Cedric the Entertainer. Oh, his comments are relevant. Of course, this is pre-Obama Kings of Comedy. The reason why I posted this clip is because we're going to go to school. We have to make sure at least we put the information out there. Smoke, you got lassoed into a conversation with the Al Show, and the Al Show basically thinks that you validated something for him that doesn't even exist. This is what does not exist in that Umar Johnson sector. Neither you or Stargate have a reputation as using the Umar Johnson sector as a dating pool. Smoke, you're not a skirt chaser in the Umar Johnson sector. Stargate did not use anybody as a potential mate, nor did the brothers consider Stargate as a mate, because that's not the way she interacted in the sector. That's not how she put herself out there. Al Show wants to believe something because of how he feels. Now, we do know that there were a few women who came onto You Smoke, and I'll tell you, you know the difference. Everyone knows that Stargate is effusive, she's personable, she's gregarious, she's affectionate, she's loving, and that's how she interacts with people. They don't consider that, oh my God, Stargate has the hots for me. By the same token, I'm not going to go shame any man if he thought Stargate is someone I'd like to date. I'm not going to shame any brother for that either. What is wrong with that? There is nothing sinister about people who have affinity for each other. There's also nothing sinister about people who are mutually attracted to each other and they end up having a relationship. Millions upon millions of people meet their spouse, their long-term partner, the mother and father of their children on social media. It's odd, though, how you hear people trying to shame that. There is no set way how and where to meet someone that you end up spending time with, whether it's short-term or long-term. The options are limitless. All I'm saying is Al has a certain perception about what went down and took elements of what you said to reinforce that, although his version of occurrences just didn't go down the way he is insisting that it did. But the difference with a few of the women that came over to You Smoke, you and Stargate had a dust up. Anybody can characterize it any way they want to. When the onion layers were peeled back, it was a dust up. You guys were never gonna get together. And the idiots in the Umar Johnson sector knew that. Did you forget that Binary needed to get his channel popping and couldn't do anything unless Stargate was there? He knew Stargate had leadership skills and was able to help Binary. Binary was very dependent on Stargate. So they just used that incident to get Binary's channel going. That's all it was. Nobody believed that crap. And Binary continued on from there, attacking people unprovoked. He started attacking me. He started attacking you. What did you ever do to Binary? Nothing. He used that dust up to get his channel popping, and he needed Stargate to help him. That's all it was. Now, I don't want to drudge this up again because you and Stargate are cool. But the way things went down is the way they went down Binary is a user. He was too scared to go live without Stargate. He was very dependent. And when Stargate decided to go and start her channel, he completely discombobulated and was terrified. And it took him a while to be able to do a live stream on his own. He was scared. So that incident was used to get Binary going. That's all it was. It was never anything serious. And these subjects know it's not serious. They just jump on bullshit. Who they really love to put together are two men. But there were some other females, Smoke, and you know this, who were on your panel who did consider you potential and wanted to, quote, get with you. And the way they spoke to you, you could tell. Now, it doesn't have the same meaning when Stargate says it because that's her personality. And we'll distinguish if Stargate was interested in a dude, it would be a whole different type of interaction. But you had females going over to you, Smoke, knowing that you were married, and they called you honey and baby. And the way they said it was inappropriate, and they said it to you. It's not like they went around and that's how they are and they said it to other people. That's the difference. Now, if someone has an open marriage, so for example, and they say the husband and wife, oh, we'll just go run around, that's their business. But it's not an open marriage and people are aware of that, that's crossing the line. So I'm putting that out here because I want to make sure it's clear. If you're going to hang around another group, if you want to ingratiate yourself with another group, a culture, ethnicity, race that's different from your own, it's very important that you try to learn as much as you can about the tendencies of the specific group. Obviously, people are individuals. So you're not going to say every single person is like this. And you have to keep in mind that every group, every culture, every race has an underbelly. And if you see underbelly behavior, have enough respect for the group not to characterize the group in that manner, because you're not characterizing your group like that. You're not characterizing biracial people, because there are plenty of people over in these other spaces, the Owl Show, who you've told me about, who are whatever. Do you consider all biracial people like them? No. So that's not something you should do to the Black culture. Black culture, we in general are familiar with each other. But familiar doesn't mean intrusive. There is a big difference. There have been a few circumstances where the term intrusive applies. Whatever situations occurred, they have been resolved. So it's not cool for me to bring it up and try to disrupt the harmony that people now have with each other. When lines were crossed, there's a way to handle that. Mature people will make the statement, whatever it is, that offended me, I didn't like you did that. Even if they have a falling out for a while and they've resolved their issue, it's cool, we move on. But hearing people make statements of affinity to each other in the Black culture doesn't always mean that somebody's trying to hit on somebody. Flirting with someone in our culture doesn't mean people are going to hook up. Now, if people decide to hook up, that's their business. They're consenting adults. But by and large, we make these types of statements to each other, and it doesn't mean anything sexual is going to even be considered or planned. A man can admire a woman and give her compliments, and a man could even think about, gee, I wonder how it would be if I had sex with this woman. That doesn't mean the man is going to pursue it. This is how sexual behaviors and sexual development works. People should not be shamed for it. Then we know there are behaviors that are downright disgusting and atrocious. Sexually harassing people, constantly pursuing people with sexual comments who you clearly know are not interested. We've seen this. Some of this went on, sorry, Photon, on Photon's panel. Photon was not involved in that engagement that I'm referring to, but it went on and someone's effort to set boundaries was ignored. The person who was offended just turn the heat on as far as asserting the boundary. The person who was approached and offended didn't cave in and say, oh, guess what? Let's go meet up together so we can have sex since you're sexually harassing me. No, it wasn't a match. Now, if both people would have agreed to talk to each other like that, that's their business. It was one sided. So I'm talking about Black culture in general. We are familiar, not intrusive. Let's bring in another race or culture that isn't Black. And I will say this: every person has a right to consider themselves who they are. No one else is going to be able to tell somebody what their race is. So if you consider yourself to be biracial and you're stuck on the biracial identification, that's who you are. You can't tell somebody else what they are. Now we know there's fraud going on here, like Rachel Dolezal up here telling everybody that a Black man was her father when he wasn't. And she got her parents on TV identifying themselves. I'm not talking about fraud. People have a right to identify how they identify, and they should not be shamed for it. So let me talk about what happens when you are dealing with someone who is not Black. They don't consider themselves Black. In the Black culture, they don't really accept them as Black because that's not what they want to be or who they are. When you have a situation like that, you need to really think about how you're interacting and how you come off. If you don't give a damn, you shouldn't be around the group because it could be hazardous. Like in person, it could be seriously hazardous. If you just think you can say whatever the hell that you want, you're going to get hauled off. You're going to get your block knocked off. But if you want to be ingratiated with the group, at least give a damn about the group and learn something about the group and try to steer clear of offending people. If you don't care about that, that says there's something else going on, that you believe what you have to offer someone, somehow, somewhere in that group is beyond the importance of you respecting the group as a whole. And you're going to encounter problems if you take that attitude. You are going to continue to piss people off. If you're going to say what's not accepted among these biracial groups, then how would it not be relevant what's acceptable within a Black group on YouTube? We're just talking specifically here. Or even extend it outward. If you are protecting who you are as a culture, as an ethnicity, as a race, however you want to put it, dual race, biracial, multiracial, then it should be good enough for the people you're interacting with. To say you don't care is problematic. Okay, if you don't care, you don't care, but it's problematic if you actually don't care. There are things in the Black community that we don't accept, and being overly intrusive is one of them. You heard Cedric is joking about it, but it's true because that goes all the way back to slavery. We had no autonomy. We had no rights as far as who we even had children with. Our bodies were not ours, physically, verbally, socially, all these intrusions. They could say whatever they wanted to us. Look at it these days. How many times have you seen or heard of situations? And if you don't know about it, if you're not Black, you can look it up. The white people will come up to us and touch us. Like your back's to them. How do you know they're coming up to you? And by the time they're on you, they're already touching you. They want to touch your hair. They just look at you like you're a freaking what? In a circus. And start asking you all of these questions. You don't even know who they are. That's what it feels like when statements are made and certain behaviors manifest. And there's no regard when someone says, hold it. I'm setting a boundary. Okay? Anybody that's not Black who might be listening doesn't consider themselves Black. How are you going to feel somebody comes up to you and starts touching you? But they don't even think about how we would feel. Just like during slavery times, they didn't give a damn. So we are familiar with each other, but we're not intrusive. You always have exceptions. Every race, every culture, every group has underbelly. And yes, there are underbelly in that Umar Johnson sector, but they are not representative of the black race. That's not the vast majority of the black race. Now, there are those, you're free to have your opinion all day, every day. We know how Carrie Ann feels about black folks. But to characterize what has happened in that Umar Johnson sector as being a sexualized, heterosexual haven where the men are in hot pursuit of Stargate is false. Stargate has an engaging, gregarious, affectionate, effusive relationship with everybody, not just the men. So it's selling her short. It's an insult to sit here and say all she's good for is men chasing after her. Because Stargate never went after anybody in the Umar Johnson sector for a mate. Now, there could have been a few situations where men maybe thought about pursuing Stargate, thought about it, but it's not something that's out there in the open and it's known. Oh, they want to get married. They want Stargate to be their woman. The way they talk to her, they are flirting with her like she's flirting with them. Like other people in the Umar Johnson sector flirted with each other. It doesn't mean that they plan to, that they desire, that they're going to make it happen, that they're going to have sex and it's all charged up, or all we're talking about is getting together and hooking up. And no, if that sentiment exists, it's with those subjects who talk about men hooking up, men loving each other, men wanting to have sex with each other. They are very much out with that, to the point they lie on heterosexual men who are married and have long-term partners and children. They just throw them in this man-on-man bullshit. And when I say bullshit, I make it bullshit because they're targeting people who have nothing to do with that. They've never indicated very clearly are not gay men, but you have these males who talk more about man-on-man action than they do Stargate trying to get with dudes. It's a scenario, Smoke, that is restricted primarily to the Al show. Al thinks like that. Who else thinks like that? Carrie Ann says it, although she knows it's not true, and Carrie Ann wasn't even here when the foundation was laid as far as you and Stargate and everybody in that Umar Johnson sector. So anyone hearing Stargate say, I love you, they're not going to care. But the Al show freaks out about it because he doesn't understand that we tend to be familiar. Men say, I love you all the time. Who takes that seriously? And took it to the hilt. One person, Carrie Ann. Do you think, and I know Photon hates being brought up in this way, but I'm going to bring you up anyway. If Photon really thought Stargate was serious about hooking up with him, he would not be comfortable with her saying, I love you, Photon. And she kept saying it, I love you. What happened when someone did that to Photon? I don't even think it would matter who it is. That's not how Photon is. That's not the situation on YouTube. But Photon knows Stargate is gregarious and effusive. So he knows he's not going to take it that way. Between black folks, we have the within limits, within bounds, familiarity, and safe flirting. That's the extent of it. Look what Carrie Ann did. She kept badgering. She kept going. And she kept saying. That is not the same thing that someone like Stargate would do. It's not the same thing that other people might say if they're expressing appreciation to Photon. But Photon typically doesn't have that kind of interaction with people. People are different. So he's not going to feel comfortable if somebody comes up and says, hi, Photon, I love you. That is Stargate's personality. How many other females in the Umar Johnson sector are like that? And it's not criticizing them. Everyone is different. It's not a criticism that people have a different personality, but it would just stick out like a sore thumb. Just like when there's some females that went over to Smoke's channel and called him baby and honey. Baby and Honey is different from them because that's not the way they are. That's not how they were interacting. They just started doing that after a while. Stargate came in like that because that's how she is. We are who we are just because black folks are running around being nice to each other is not sinister. It's not necessarily sexual. Flirting is not a sin unless you are crossing lines. Now, I am not going to, oh, please don't think I'm ever going to forget Dumpsy D. Durrell. I wouldn't even say Dumpsy D. Durrell was trying to pursue Stargate. He wanted to humiliate her sexually because she decided to go to the Smokes channel. So he started making up lies. He actually made up lies and said Stargate wanted to have sex with him. But it was different from the Smoke situation. Stargate and the Smoke had that situation. They resolved it. It was over. Dumpsy continuously went to the hilt, making those comments about Stargate. And whenever he gets mad at her, he starts bringing her up in a sexually degrading way. Smoke doesn't do that. Now, Smoke talks shit about you if you mess with him and his family, but this is not what Smoke is known for. It's more so females went to him saying baby and honey, and it didn't sound like it was our normal type of familiarity. It was beyond that. We know, people know, but if you're not part of the black community and you say you don't care, what is your motivation for being around us? We are a community of people who welcome everyone. And whoever wants to claim that we are against biracial people, how are we against biracial people? I guess we can compare that to the white race. If the white race was so accepting of biracial and mixed race people, slaves would have been in the inheritance line based on all of the white fathers who had a role in producing them. Were not included in generational wealth. When Sally Hemings' family tried to claim a stake to Thomas Jefferson's property, are you kidding me? Sally Hemings was molested as a child and fathered, I think, six children by Thomas Jefferson. He didn't provide for any one of those children or for her. It's exploitation. Whoever wants to talk about globally how black folks are with biracial people, think about how many white slave owners, how many white families who know in their legacy their men fathered children by black women. How many of those children are in line to inherit any part of that wealth? Zero. So that's the determination when you talk about who's accepting who. You have individuals. You have underbelly. But underbelly isn't representative of the entire culture. If you're going to identify your people by the best of the best, why would you think another culture is going to identify their own people by the worst of the worst? The worst of the worst run around in that Umar Johnson sector. Not every single one, but there are a number of them. That is not representative of the black culture. You're going to continue to see people in the Umar Johnson sector and surrounding sectors take a liking to Stargate. It doesn't mean they're going to go and date. Now, Stargate made her decisions about who she got involved with, but there was never in the equation that was the Umar Johnson sector. They're going to keep complimenting Stargate. It's not going to stop. That's just the way it is. That is who she is. You got to think about why you have so much investment in it. Those in the Umar Johnson sector are mainly focused on men hooking up with men or verbalizing their fantasies about men hooking up with men and trying to get people to talk about men hooking up with men. They absolutely are not promoting any heterosexual relationships. They want to do shows with Stargate because they know the shows will be popping. People are not ashamed to ask Stargate to do shows. Stargate, you want to do a show? What's the big deal? There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with asking her to do a show. If they don't want to ask other women, they don't want to ask other women. It's because Stargate is who she is. It's not a sexual thing by and large. Then again, if it is, The men should not be shamed for feeling that way. It's not shameful to have feelings towards people, but to make it something that it isn't on a global level is another circumstance. Folks, I got more to say, always will. In the meantime, you know the drill. Buyer beware.